Hey guys, today I'll be showing you my top 20 VS Code extensions in no particular order. So the first one is going to be live server. And what this extension is going to allow us to do is, instead of us going and finding the folder, our HTML folder, and double clicking on it, we can just go to our index.html file, right click, open with live server. And the second best thing about this is it's gonna update live. So whenever we make changes here, let's say test here, and if we save a file with Ctrl S or clicking on file, save, this is gonna update here without us having to go into a browser and refreshing. And if we change to test one and then save with Ctrl S, it's gonna update to that. So that would be our first extension. The second extension would be Prettier, which is used to format your code. It works with almost anything: HTML, CSS, SAS, JavaScript, React here, which is Prettier code formatter. And then let's say we make some spaces here, and let's move this image over there. Let's move this over here. So you can make it save. You can make it format on save as well, but the default shortcut, I'm gonna write it down here so you guys can see as well, is Shift plus Alt plus F. So that is the shortcut on Windows to format it. So if I do Shift Alt F now, it's gonna format the code, as you can see. And we can do the same thing in CSS as well and JavaScript, like I mentioned earlier. The next extension is gonna be auto rename tag. So we can search for that. So this is the extension, and what this is going to allow us to do, so let's say we have a h2 here and we have something inside of it. Let's just say hello. So if we wanted to change this h2 to something else, maybe we want this to be a paragraph, we can just go here and remove the h2, and it's going to remove it from both the front and the back, and then we can add a paragraph, we can add a div, or whatever we want. Then the next extension is gonna be called bracket pair. So bracket pair colorizer, I think. So this one, there are two versions. This is the newer one. I think this is 2, but this is the one I'm using. So this is just coloring your brackets, and so you can see where they end. So let's see if we had a if statement here. So if something, and then we have some codes, and then we have else here, for example, something else. So if we click here, it's gonna show us what it's gonna highlight that line or the curly braces here where it ends, and it's gonna do the same thing for every bracket. If we go here, it's gonna highlight this one. So that's another useful extension to have. The next one is gonna be code spell checker. So this is just gonna check for your issues if you spell something wrong. So for example, if we go here, we can type something, let's say assumption, and it's gonna have a blue underline under it. And if we hover over, you can click quick fix, and then there are the words. Or if it's something like that is not a word that you just made up and you want to use, you can just click here, add to user dictionary or to workspace, so you don't have this blue underline, but the first one is always what you want to fix. So that would be another extension we can use. Then going to the next one, this one is going to be color highlight, and this is the extension we're going to be using. So what this is going to allow us to do, I have an example here in JavaScript. That's going to allow us to have the color showing here, because before you would just see the numbers here and the letters, you wouldn't see the actual color, but this is going to allow you to see that. And if we go to settings, you can change how this looks like. So we go to extension, and then we can find color highlight. And here where it says dot before, I think this is gonna be default to background or something else, but we can change this to, let's say, background here. And then if we go back, you can see how that looks like. I think that's the default, but I'm gonna use dot before. There are a few other things you can change: dot after, outline, underline. So that's another good extension I use. The next one is gonna be highlight matching tag. So this is the extension. And then if we go to our HTML, for example, we can see where it ends. So for example, if I click here, we can see the underline and it highlights the end of the div. So if we had something bigger, like let's say div, and then inside we have h1 times 3 plus div times 3. And let's say if we want to see where this ends, you can see it here, and same for everything else. So it highlights the actual div and it adds the underline. So this was highlight matching tag extension. Then the next one is gonna be a live Sass compiler. So if we search for live Sass, this is gonna be the extension. So this is useful for your Sass files, and it's pretty quick. So for example, I made my Sass file here, which is main Sass. And if I go to my index file, I'm gonna comment this out, and I'm just gonna add this one, which is related to that. And then here at the bottom, it's gonna say watch Sass. So that's the only thing you need to click. And it's gonna create some files here, like main.css.map and also main CSS. And you're gonna be able to write Sass here. So that's another cool extensions you guys can use. I'm gonna comment this out. Then if we go back here, another extension is Markdown Preview Enhanced. So if we search for Markdown, if I could type Preview. So the first one, so Markdown Preview Enhanced. So how this works is, for example, we have a todo.md file here, and we can add some Markdown. So let's say we add hello, and we add something else here. And we can open live preview in the actual VS Code here with this Markdown. So this would be the shortcut. I'm gonna write it down again. So it's Control plus K plus V. So what you wanna do is you wanna press these two keys at once, and then you're gonna have an error, a message here at the bottom saying it's waiting for you to hit the third key, and then you're gonna hit V. So we're gonna do that here. So if we press Ctrl K, it's gonna say it here, waiting for the second key. Then we hit V and we can see the preview. So if I change this, you can see how that looks like. You can add any markdown here. I just have heading tags, but you can add pictures, links, whatever you might have. And then the next extension, so let's close this. Let's go here. So we can remove the markdown preview. The next extension is live share. So this is probably the only extension I'm not going to be able to show you how it works. But once you install the extension, it's going to give you this icon. And what this extension does is going to allow you to collaborate with your friends or anyone else. The only thing you need to do is click Start Collaboration here. You need to sign with GitHub, and it's going to give you a code that you can give to your friends. They're just going to click on Join and paste the code. And both of you are going to be able to edit the same files and everything. You're also going to be able to share the live server, any server you use. You're going to be able to share the terminal and stuff like that. So I can't really show you how that completely works. Then the next extension is going to be Material Icon Theme. So we can search for Material Icon Theme here. And this is the one I use. So what this is going to give us is just the icons next to our, let's say, index.html, style CSS. So if I open my file here, you can see the icon the image has, HTML1, CSS, JavaScript, Sass, and so on. Then let's go back to extensions here. The next one is going to be Better Comments. And it's the first one right here. And what this is going to allow us is just to have nicer looking comments, I guess. There's nothing else. So I added a few comments in my JavaScript. So this is all the comments you can add. You can write a star, exclamation mark, question mark, star again. There are plenty of options how you can write the comments and which colors they get. But this is the example here. Actually, I think I have it in CSS. Yeah, so these are the comments. So as you can see, you can type exclamation mark, something. You can do question mark, something else. Then here you can, if you want the text decoration, and then here you can type to do as well. and then some text or numbers. And last one is adding a star and another comment here. And this has to be wrapped in a comment, I'm pretty sure. So if you're in CSS, it's going to be this comment. If you are somewhere else, like in JavaScript, it's going to be double lines for the comment. So depending on which file you're adding them. So that would be another extension we can use. So let's go back here. The next extension is going to be calculate. So we can search for that. And what this extension is just going to allow us to calculate anything inside our VS Code by just highlighting it. So for example, if I go to JavaScript, I added some numbers here, like 8 times 8. So we can highlight that. We can press F1 and we can just type calculate here. And it's going to give us the result here. So 8 times 8 equals to 64. So that would be another cool extension that I use. So then let's close this and go back here. Then the next extension is going to be HTML tag wrapper. So tag wrapper here. And it's again the first one. And what this is going to allow us to do, which I'll show you in a second, is we can highlight the text and we can wrap the text in a, let's say, a div, a paragraph, whatever we want. And the shortcut for that is going to be Control-I, so Control+I. So for example, if we want to highlight this UL here and want to wrap it in a div, we can highlight that, press Control-I, and then it's going to add a div, but it's also adding a cursor to both sides. So we can remove the div and maybe add a paragraph or a section or whatever it might be. So that's another pretty good extension I use. So the next extension we're going to cover is CSS Peak. So this is the extension, and what this is going to allow us to do is, for example, if we have a style CSS here and I added a class of heading, so if we want to access that class from my HTML, we can easily do that. So we find the class of heading, control, and click here, and it's going to give us that class inside the CSS. Or we can also just click anywhere in that class and hit F12. That's going to do the same thing. And if we go back and do the same thing for container, F12, it's going to target the container here. So that would be CSS Peak. Then the next extension is going to be Stack Overflow. Stack Overflow Instant Search. And this would be the actual extension. So what this is going to allow us to do is search anything on either Stack Overflow or Google really easily through VS Code, and it's going to open in browser. So for example, we can type use state like I have here. And how you can access this is we can highlight the code, and I'm going to write the shortcut here so you guys can see. So Control+H is the shortcut. So we want to highlight the text, Control-H, and then we can get what it says here. So it says use state, and then it says if you want to confirm, so we hit enter. And then you can either search on Stack Overflow, like you see here, for everything related to use state, or Google, or some actual stuff that might be interesting for you, like triggering use state, React hooks use state array. So there are plenty of options, but let's say we pick search Stack Overflow use state. That's going to open in a browser with that inside the search. And also if we can search for multiple values. So for example, here I have use effect and use ref. So again, we highlight Control-H, click enter, and then there are a few examples, and then again we can search for that. Or maybe we want to see this one, and we can click on that one, and it's going to open the actual thing here that we can see. So that would be another extension that we can use, which is Stack Overflow Instant Search. Then the next extension is VS Code Faker, so VS Code-Faker. And what this extension is going to allow us to do is just to create some fake placeholder data that we need. They have everything like address, date, database, company, name, phone, other things. So how this is going to work is we're going to go to JavaScript here, and we're going to hit F1. So once we click F1, we can search for Faker. And I think the first time you're gonna need to click enter, but after that it's gonna give you all of these. So for example, we can click, let's select name, click enter, and then it's gonna ask us what do we want: first name, last name, prefix, suffix, title. Let's say we want a job type, so that's gonna give us a job type there. And then maybe we hit F1 again and we search for faker, and let's say we want to get an address and we want to get a street name, and that's going to give us some data for the street name as well. So that's another cool extension you guys can use. Then the next one is going to be image preview. So this extension right here, and what this is going to allow us to do, so right here I have an image, so preview.png, which is just a logo. So if I go to my index.html, I'm using it here as a picture, right? And then it's gonna show the picture here. I don't know if you can see it, it's pretty small, but also once you hover over it, it's gonna show the preview of that image. And for example, you can click follow link, which is gonna open it here. There are a few other good things. You can reveal in sidebar, so you can see it. It's going to highlight that picture. And the other thing is you can actually see in which folder it is by clicking open containing folder, and then it's going to show you the exact folder where it is. Then the next extension is going to be SVG preview. So we can search for SVG preview here. Not there, I'm sorry. So here, set extensions, we want to search for SVG preview. And the second option right here. So this is what I'm using. And how this works is I have an SVG file here, so we can open that file. As you can see here, image.svg with all the code, and it's actually, as soon as you click on the file, it's gonna open the preview on the right, and you're gonna be able to change the values here, and it's still gonna update here. But in case it doesn't open, there is a shortcut. So the shortcut is Ctrl-Alt-P. So I'm gonna write that down here for you guys. So Ctrl plus Alt plus P. So if in case this doesn't open, by default this would be the shortcut to open it yourself. But it usually does open by default. So that would be our SVG preview. So the next extension we're going to cover is emoji snippets. So we can search for emoji snippets here. And it's the first extension right here. And this is just going to allow us to write emojis really fast. And you're going to have a lot of options that you can see. So if we go to our style CSS, for example, and we want to add an emoji, the thing you need is adding a column. And then you're going to see all the options here. So these are all the emotes. So maybe we type something like rocket here, and we can click enter, and it's going to add that emote. And then we can do the same thing and maybe add type people here, or person. So we get this emote, smiley, smiling face, and so on. So that would be it, guys, for my top 20 VS Code extension that I use. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.